rivalry in college football. Clemson, Ohio State. They have met 3 times in very important matchups just in the last 7 years of college football. 4 games all time. We will look at the history and what it means right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. If you love college football, you have arrived at the right place. Lock it in, like the videos, share them on social media, and subscribe right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Clemson fan, you've got it all over. Ohio State fan. Anytime there's any trash talking in sports, and that should be all the time among fans, Clemson fan just says 4-0. End of discussion. 4-0. And Clemson fan, you know what? You're right, because the competition on the field is what matters most. When we met, don't talk about the other championships you have. Don't talk about the other games. Don't talk about beating Michigan. Don't talk to me about national championships. Just talk to me about the 4 times that we've met on the field. And Clemson fan, you've got bragging rights. 4-0. But for those of you that watch us on a regular basis here, you know that we're a little bit smarter than that. We're here for the hardcore college football fan, the smart hardcore college football fan, and we take the deep dive. We're going to look at Clemson's 4 wins against Ohio State. We're also going to look at the program histories between the Buckeyes and the Clemson Tigers. And Clemson fan, again, we want to educate you and then have you go off into social media and still continue to say 4-0, 4-0, 4-0. For the Ohio State fan, we're going to educate you as well to try to give you maybe a little bit more ammunition in this fight, and then certainly leave your comments and questions below. Ohio State and Clemson, they first met in the 1978 Gator Bowl. Famous game, not that it meant a whole lot in regards to the standings that season. Ohio State came into the game with one of its worst teams in a decade at 7-3-1. Clemson came in at 10-1. They were the ACC champions. So Ohio State as a third-place team in the Big Ten, taking on the ACC champions in Clemson at the Gator Bowl in Jacksonville. Danny Ford as an interim coach coaching this game, and it was a tremendous football game. Nip and tuck all the way, defensive battle. This would become infamously Woody Hayes' final game at Ohio State, a coach who won 13 Big Ten championships, 5 national championships at Ohio State, was forced out following this game for good reason. Danny Ford, as we mentioned, would eventually win a national championship at Clemson just 3 years later in 1981, finishing with a perfect record and beating Nebraska in the Orange Bowl. Took over in this game from Charlie Pell, who moved on to Florida. Again, this is the worst Ohio State team record-wise since 1971, and finishing at 7-3-1 in the regular season, and only kicking a field goal against Michigan in a 14-3 loss. Keys in this game was the red zone defense of Clemson, stopping the Buckeyes inside the red zone on a 4th down conversion try twice. The Buckeyes opting to not kick the field goal, go for the 4th down, and getting stopped in the red zone after long drives on 2 occasions. Clemson would lead this game 17-9. Ohio State went for a 2-point conversion after a touchdown in the 4th quarter to be denied, and that would be the final score at 17-15. But the real drama and storyline and historic incident in this game, of course, came with the Buckeyes driving. They were in field goal range to win this game 18-17. Final seconds of the game, freshman quarterback, the first ever freshman quarterback to start at Ohio State, Art Schlichter, who would forge a historic career at Ohio State, did not see the linebacker Charlie Ballman, threw an interception to end the game. Ballman caught the ball, ran to the sideline, and in a flurry of action, ran into the arms of Ohio State head coach Woody Hayes, who took him around horse collar style and popped him right as best he could for like a 70-year-old man under the chin strap. And all chaos ensued after that. But in terms of the football game, Clemson won it 17-15 in the first matchup between the 2 teams. All right, we would have to wait until the 2013 season, 2014 Orange Bowl, where we saw number 12 Clemson take on number 7 Ohio State. The Buckeyes would have played in the national championship game as the undefeated Big Ten leader in the Big Ten championship game against Michigan State. They led that game by a touchdown in the second half at 24-17. Michigan State came back and beat Ohio State, knocking the Buckeyes out of the national championship game. Clemson entered the game in the top 10. They had 2 losses against Florida State and South Carolina. The Buckeyes just the 1 loss against Michigan State in the Big Ten championship game. Clemson led this one 20-9. Very entertaining game with a lot of talent on the field from both sides. NFL players all over the place. Buckeyes came back down 20-9 to take a 29-20 lead in the third quarter. So late third quarter, Buckeyes with a 9-point lead, getting the football back. Key moment in the game. Philly Brown muffs the punt for the Buckeyes, sets up Clemson in the red zone. Clemson scores to narrow the gap at 29-27. Clemson marches on to the victory at 40-35. Drama at the conclusion of the game, though, again, as the Taj Boyd to Stanton Sankinger touchdown pass with 5 minutes left gave Clemson the 40-35 lead. Ohio State had a last chance. Braxton Miller threw an interception to Stephon Anthony. Stephon Anthony, the hero of the game, closes out the Buckeyes' drive at the Clemson 39 in the closing seconds. Taj Boyd had a huge day, 378 yards passing, 127 rushing, 505 yards for Taj Boyd, and Sammy Watkins ripped up the Buckeyes defense, 16 catches for 227 and 2 touchdowns. This one went down to the wire again, and it was again a Clemson interception of Ohio State to clinch the victory, 40-35 in the 2014 Orange Bowl. Move ahead to the most important game to date in the series, the 2016 Fiesta Bowl college football playoff game. Clemson wipes out Ohio State 31-0. The ACC champs taking on the first team in the college football playoff era to earn a spot in the playoff. And we say earn a spot, be selected by the selection committee as a non-conference champion. Clemson's defensive line was stellar and dominated the game, held Ohio State to 9 first downs and 215 yards of total offense. This was Urban Meyer's 1 shutout loss in 222 games of coaching. At Bowling Green, Utah, Florida, and Ohio State, Urban Meyer was shut out once to Clemson in the 2016 college football playoff. Ohio State has not been shut out in 26 years before the Clemson game in the playoffs. Ohio State only had 6 starters back from its 2015 team that was one of the most talented that we've seen in college football in recent years. They were not expected to make it to the playoffs. They were going to be very good, of course, but it was the youngest team in college football that Ohio State fielded, with, again, just 6 starters coming back from the 2015 team and the national championship team of 2014. And the Ohio State offensive line could not handle Clemson's defensive front, and J.T. Barrett, less than stellar. The defense for Ohio State played well despite giving up the 31 points. Clemson would, of course, parlay this win into a national championship matchup with Alabama. The rematch going Clemson's way 35-31 in a tremendous game as Clemson beats Ohio State in the college football playoff 31-0 in 2016. All right. We had a much, much better matchup between the two schools in the last college football playoff in 2019. Clemson comes back from 16 down to beat Ohio State 29-23. Tons of controversial plays in this game after the Buckeyes led it 16-0, and J.K. Dobbins was running wild. Dobbins had to leave the game. He did return, was a bit hobbled. Ohio State's offensive and defensive lines dominated, controlled the game in the first half. The game turned on a Shaun Wade targeting penalty against Trevor Lawrence, in which the Buckeyes had stopped the drive on 4th and 16. Forced a 4th and 16 after the third down play, but Shaun Wade, arguably Ohio State's, well, certainly going into 2020, their finest defensive back, thrown out of the game, called for targeting. Clemson gets the first down. They score a couple plays later to cut the lead to 16-7. Buckeyes also made a misplay in the kicking game in which they ran into the punter, roughed the punter. Some would say roughing or running into the punter. That was the big debate on that particular play, much like the targeting play was controversial. And that extended a Clemson drive in which they were punting back to Ohio State. That was near the end of the first half. Clemson would score to make it 16-14 at the break. Travis Etienne could not run from the backfield against the Ohio State defense. They shut him down all night, but he became a major player out of the backfield as a pass receiver, burned the Buckeyes on a 94-yard drive as Clemson won the game 29-23. Ohio State's defense forced a would-be turnover on a pass reception, again, that was turned over on replay. Another controversial call against the Buckeyes. Clemson played well in the fourth quarter in the clutch, stopped Ohio State's last gasp drive as Justin Fields threw an ill-timed, ill-delivered pass with his receiver Chris Olave breaking off the route. And, of course, Nolan Turner made the easy interception in the end zone, thwarting the Ohio State drive in the red zone as the Buckeyes were attempting to score the game-winning touchdown, but the Clemson Tigers held on for the 29-23 win in a classic game against Ohio State. So there it is, the 4 games: Gator Bowl, Orange Bowl, Fiesta Bowl, and another college football playoff appearance in the Fiesta Bowl. Ohio State, Clemson, Tigers own the bragging rights, 4-0 sweep. 3 close games in the blowout in the 2016 playoffs. Broadening the picture out here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. And, of course, you've hit that subscribe button by now. Ohio State has won 8 national championships, Clemson 3. Those of you who watch me on a regular basis know that I'm not a big proponent of the national championship for a number of reasons that won't be discussed here. But, of course, if you win a national championship, you certainly are one of the best teams in the country, at least. Ohio State with 8 AP national championships, Clemson with 3. Now, if we compare the programs all time in regards to consistent winning, interesting numbers here. Let's run it down in terms of winning percentage and also rankings in the top 25, the top 10, and the top 5 in the country. Again, Buckeyes 8 national championships, Tigers with 3. All-time winning percentage, Ohio State virtually in a dead heat with Michigan with the best winning percentage in college football history at 729. Clemson is number 21, 21st in winning percentage at 618, and you've got to think under Dabo Swinney at something like 55-4 the past 5 seasons that winning percentage has elevated seriously. But again, the Buckeyes are number 1 all-time, and Clemson is number 21. Okay, you say, Mark, let's not talk about prehistoric football from the 1920s. Okay, let's break it down this way as well. Since 1960, Ohio State has the best winning percentage in college football. You see it right there, 554, 148, and 8. I believe that's 551, 148, and 8 for a 785 winning percentage since 1960. That is 60 years of play. Ohio State at 785, Clemson at 682. Because of the way I needed to run the numbers manually, I could not find anyone that would rank the team since 1960, but the Buckeyes with a full 100-point difference in winning percentage over Clemson. I would think that Clemson would be roughly in that 20th spot as well, because you see the winning percentage since of all time of being at number 21 at 682 over the last 60 years. That might be somewhere in the 10 to 15 range, I would think. The Tigers at 468, 216, and 10. All right. Winning percentage since 2000. This century, Ohio State, number 1 in the country at 219 and 43. That's a winning percentage of 836. Clemson is number 6, and of course, Dabo Swinney has really raised the bar, and most of this winning percentage elevation has come in the last 5 or 6 years. Since 2000, the Clemson Tigers with 196 wins and 70 losses, a winning percentage number 6 in college football at 737. And then the 2 programs are in a virtual lock since the college football playoff was formed in 2014 in terms of winning percentage. Clemson at 79 and 8, only 8 losses for Clemson, a .908 winning percentage. And for the Ohio State Buckeyes since 2014, they lost a game in 14. Let's make sure I've got this right. In 15, 2-16, 2-17, 18-19. So they are at 75-8. So Clemson has a slightly better winning percentage than Ohio State since 2014, as Clemson is 79-8, and the Buckeyes record you see right there. In regards to dominance within their own conference, Ohio State has won 39 Big Ten championships. Clemson has won 19 ACC championships. But the Buckeyes' membership in the Big Ten goes all the way back to 1912. Clemson and the ACC was formed in 1953, so that's a huge advantage for Ohio State, and that's a 41-year start on that. So we would have to compare, and I failed to do it. I ran a ton of numbers. I wasn't going to run this one as well. How many Big Ten championships Ohio State has since 1953? I certainly believe it's more than 19. So Ohio State has been more dominant in the Big Ten, certainly, than Clemson in the ACC. But again, that 39-19 advantage in Big Ten championships has to be considered versus the context of the number of years involved. Ran the numbers on final AP rankings. This is extremely interesting. Since the AP poll was formed, Ohio State has finished in the top 25 in the final rankings 59 times, Clemson 34 times. So that's in the top 25. So, of course, you got to be a decent football team. Typically, in this day and age, 8-4, maybe 9-4 with a bowl win, or 9-4 with a bowl loss. Something in that range. Maybe 8-5 will squeeze you into the final top 25. Now, obviously, to finish in the top 5 or the top 10 in the country, you have to be near elite. Ohio State has finished in the top 10 in the final AP poll 40 times. Clemson, 12. Ohio State has finished in the top 5 in the country 29 times. Clemson has finished in the top 5 in the country 6 times. And Clemson fans, you well know this. Clemson has finished in the top 5 in the country the last 5 years. 5 consecutive years, Clemson has finished in the top 5, and they've only done it 6 times in program history. We all know the other time. It was when Clemson won the national championship in 1981. That was the only time that Clemson had ever finished in the top 5 in the nation. Now they've done it 5 consecutive years. So 6 total times for Clemson, finishing in the top 5 in the nation. Ohio State, 29 times. Interesting when you break it down in regards to on the field, head-to-head, but also the program rankings, and breaking it down in regards to national championships, conference championships, winning percentage, and final rankings in the polls. This is what we do here at MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Is we break down college football. Bring us an argument. We'll break it down for you right here at the voice of college football. Please like, comment, share the videos, and subscribe. We'll see you next time.